Welcome back to yet another session on the Learning Simplified series. So in this session, let me try to explain what a payment aggregator is and how it works. So what exactly is a payment aggregator? Now this name may sound familiar because we have seen it in the context of payments when we make a payment from a merchant website, but it is not to be confused with the payment gateway, which offers a much simpler functionality. A aggregator is one which is a third-party service provider. It enables customers to make payments and businesses to accept different types of payments online. Now, this is a page you must be familiar with. This is the page you get on making a payment from a website. This example is that of Razorpay. A lot of multiple options are provided. The chiefly net banking, debit card, credit cards, UPI wallets, and we may have flavors of buy now, pay later, or e-mandates, which are mainly required for subscription-based services like Netflix, Hotstar, and so on. So who are the payment aggregators in India? We have two types broadly. One are the banks like ICICI, HDFC, Axis, and SBI. So these do not require a specific license because they are already have a license for banking by the Reserve Bank of India. On the other side, we have the private players, and there's a lot of them like GPay, Razorpay, PayU, JustPay, Decentro, which is the newest one on the block, and a host of others, including e-commerce companies. Now, these have applied for licenses from the RBI and have received it based on the stringent requirements which are there, especially from technical infrastructure perspective, as well as the capital requirements which are required for such a payment aggregator to thrive. So let's understand a payment aggregator flow. So as a first step, the customer checks out from the cart and tries to initiate a payment from the merchant's website. The call goes to the payment aggregator. How the call happens, we will see it in the subsequent slide. So the payment aggregator like Razorpay gets the payment initiation and directs it to its bank. So a payment aggregator always ties up with the bank. So in this example, let's assume that the payment aggregator's bank is Citibank. So the request is forwarded at this stage. The fraud checks are done to ensure that this is not a malicious attempt of making a payment as a genuine request. So next up, depending on the mode chosen, the payment aggregator's bank forwards the request. So if it's a debit card or a credit card, it goes to the Visa or the MasterCard gateway. If it is an UPI, it goes to the NPCI gateway, the Payment Corporation of India. Now we have separate videos for an UPI flow and a separate workflow video for the ATM debit card flow. So refer them in case you need detailed steps of them. But let's assume that the customer had chosen a debit card. In that case, the Visa gateway forwards it to the switch of Barclays Bank. Now, assuming that the customer banks with Barclays Bank, so the request goes to the switch of Barclays Bank, which in turn forwards it to the core banking system of Barclays. If it had been a credit card, the Visa would have forwarded it to the switch of Barclays credit banking system, credit card system. So if the funds are available, the debit of the customer's account happens and a credit goes to the Citibank, which is the PA's bank. So this is how the transaction becomes successful. And on successful deposit of the funds in Citibank, the payment aggregator, once satisfied, gives a success response to the merchant's web page, and the customer is able to do a checkout and the payment becomes successful. So in this whole process, you see that the customer's account is debited and the escrow account or the nodal account in Citibank gets credited. So at a later on stage, either at end of day or at specific intervals, the payment aggregator sends the funds to the merchant's account. Now in this case, let's assume that the merchant's account is its SBI or the State Bank of India. It can do an instant settlement as and when the transaction happens, but obviously that requires higher fees. Higher fees are charged by the payment aggregator. So there are three banks involved in this complete flow. One is the payment aggregators bank, where the credit happens, the customers bank, where the debit happens, and of course the merchants bank, Now it can happen that the payment aggregators bank and the merchants bank be one and the same, but still the process flow remains the same. So how does the PA invocation happen? So as soon as the checkout happens, the merchant website needs to make a call to the REST API of the aggregator with the order amount and the currency. The payment aggregator in the response gives the order ID. Now, in the merchant's checkout process, you should need to copy a snippet of code which is provided by the PA. So in that snippet of code, you actually pass the order ID which you receive as part of the step 1 response, the amount, and then when you do so, this page is presented with the various options. Now, depending on the options, the subsequent steps happen. If it is a net banking, it opens up the net banking page of the corresponding bank. Now, once the payment is successful, the payment aggregator comes to know about it and passes that response having the payment ID, the original order ID, and something known as a signature back to the merchant's website. So the merchant has to write a code so that it can validate the signature to ensure that it is a genuine payment acceptance. So once the signature is validated and it uses a set of API keys which are provided upfront by the PA, so once the signature is verified, the merchant then shows a successful page to the end customer. And that's how the payment cycle gets over. So why is a PA required? A PA, of course, has multiple functionalities. The chief being it offers multiple payment options. As a merchant, it's pretty impossible to give the customers so many options, but the PA ready-made has a lot of options which you can offer to the customer. In fact, for certain websites like Shopify and other e-commerce sites, it offers an e-commerce plugin, which is a plug and play. Secondly, it is a seamless and secure implementation. Secure because it complies with all the laws, the standards like the PCI DSS, the ISO standards, and so on. It provides powerful analytics for the merchants to make decisions. It executes fraud detection to ensure that there's no fraud propagated at any stage. And finally, last but not the least, it helps in value-added services like recurring payments for subscriptions like Netflix and Hotstar. So thank you for being there. Hope this session was useful in understanding how a payment aggregator works and functions. Thank you.